Imagine you're trying to get your spouse a green card, and suddenly the government sends back a letter saying your income isn't enough to sponsor them. That little piece of paper is called an I-864, and it's basically you pinky promising the U.S. government that your immigrant family member won't end up on public benefits. Here's the wild part: the income threshold isn't just some random number someone made up. It's based on the federal poverty guidelines, and you need to earn at least 125% of that number for your household size, which changes every single year. So what happens when you fall short? You don't just pack up and go home, because immigration law actually has a brilliant little backup plan built right into the system. Enter the joint sponsor, basically the financial superhero who swoops in when you can't quite hit that income bar on your own. This is a completely separate person, doesn't have to be related to you at all, who files their own I-864 alongside yours and agrees to be equally on the hook financially. And when we say on the hook, we mean it in the most legally serious way possible. If the immigrant ever receives certain federal means-tested benefits, the government can literally sue your joint sponsor to get that money back. So choosing Uncle Dave, who's barely keeping the lights on, is probably not your best move. Now there's a second option that people sleep on, called the Household Member Affidavit, which uses Form I-864A. This is for someone who actually lives in your home and wants to combine their income with yours, like a working adult child or a roommate who's down to help. The difference between these two is actually huge, and getting them confused is a classic rookie mistake that can take an otherwise solid application. A joint sponsor takes on the full liability independently, while a household member is essentially pooling their resources into your sponsorship pot. Here's where it gets genuinely clever. You can actually stack these. You could have a household member boost your numbers and still bring in a joint sponsor if you're still coming up short, like financial Voltron assembling piece by piece. Immigration officers reviewing these cases are looking for three things: that the sponsor is a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, that they're domiciled in the United States, and that the math actually works when you run it against the poverty chart. If any one of those three legs wobbles, the whole table falls over. A lot of people assume their assets can just replace income, and technically yes, assets can be counted, but the formula is brutal. The asset value must be worth 5 times the difference between your actual income and the required income, which for most people is basically a small mountain of savings. The joint sponsor route sidesteps all that complexity by just bringing in fresh income from a new person entirely, which is why immigration attorneys almost always recommend it first when a case is deficient. It's cleaner, it's faster, and it keeps the original petitioner's finances out of the microscope. One thing almost nobody tells you is that the joint sponsor's I-864 is not a backup document. It holds the exact same legal weight as the primary sponsors. Both people are signing a legally enforceable contract with the federal government, and that obligation doesn't disappear when the immigrant becomes a citizen or even when the sponsor dies, in some interpretations. A common misconception we see all the time is people thinking a letter from an employer or a bank statement alone will fix the deficiency notice. Those are supporting documents, not substitutes for the actual I-864 or I-864A form filed by a qualified person. The smartest thing you can do when you get a request for evidence on financial support is not panic, but also not guess. Getting an immigration attorney involved at that stage, even just for a consult, can be the difference between approval and a denial that follows your case for years. Whether you're the one sponsoring, the one being sponsored, or the generous friend about to become a joint sponsor, this stuff is worth understanding before you sign anything. If you want to know how our team helps families navigate exactly these situations, check out the links in the description.